Admiral Kim Tae-ho stood in front of the massive screen that covered the entire wall of the command center. The lights from hundreds of stars filled the dark space around Luna Station. He had been watching the deep space monitors for 12 hours, straight. Something was wrong. The signals coming from the edge of known space were not normal. "Sir, we have something strange," said Captain Park So-min as she walked quickly across the metal floor. Her boots made sharp sounds that echoed in the large room. She carried a datapad in her hands and looked worried. Kim turned to face her. "What kind of strange?" "It's a transmission from outside our galaxy, from the Andromeda sector." Park stopped next to him and showed him the screen of her datapad. "But it's not from any of our ships or colonies." Kim felt his heart beat faster. No human ships had ever traveled that far. The fastest Earth vessels could barely reach the edge of the Milky Way. "Are you sure?" "Yes, sir. And there's more. The signal is trying to communicate with us. It knows we exist." Kim looked at the data on her pad. Numbers and strange patterns filled the screen. "Can you understand what it says?" "We're working on it now. Dr. Lee Hyun-woo is helping us break down the language." "But, sir, what we've decoded so far is frightening." Park touched her pad and the main wall screen changed. Now it showed wave patterns and symbols that looked nothing like human writing. Some parts of the transmission had been translated into English words. "Help us," Kim read out loud. "We are dying. The Star Eaters come. Only the Deathworlders can save us." "Deathworlders?" Kim asked. "That's what they call us, sir. They know about Earth. They know we come from a dangerous planet." Kim walked closer to the screen. The translated words made him feel cold inside. "Who are they?" "They call themselves the Villani. From what we can understand, they are a peaceful species. They grow plants and study science. They've never fought a war." Park touched her pad again. "But something is hunting them. Something they call the Devourers." The screen showed new words. Kim read them slowly. "The Devourers eat stars. They turn worlds into machines. They have killed billions of us. Our weapons do nothing to them." "How long has this message been traveling?" Kim asked. "About 6 months, sir, but the signal is weak. We almost missed it." Dr. Lee Hyun-woo entered the command center. He was a thin man with gray hair who spent most of his time studying alien life. He looked tired, but excited. "Admiral, I've been studying their data about these Devourers," Lee said. "What they describe is worse than anything we've ever imagined." "Tell me." Lee pulled up new images on the screen. They showed space maps with red areas spreading across star systems. "The Devourers are not alive in the way we understand life. They are machines, but they think and learn. They consume entire solar systems and use the material to build more of themselves." Kim stared at the red areas on the map. Each one had been a star system with planets and maybe life. "How many systems have they destroyed?" "From what the Villani tell us, 17 so far, and they're moving toward both Villani space and our galaxy." Park stepped forward. "Sir, there's something else. The Villani have been watching us for years. They know about our wars, our weapons, our history. They think we're the only species that might be able to fight the Devourers." "Why us?" "Because we survived on Earth," Lee said. "Our planet tried to kill us for millions of years. Ice ages, volcanoes, diseases, predators. Other species in the galaxy evolved on peaceful worlds. They never had to fight to survive like we did." Kim thought about this. Earth had always been a difficult place. to live. Humans had survived by being tougher and more violent than other species might be. But could that really help against machines that ate stars? "What do they want us to do?" Kim asked. Park showed him more of the translated message. "They're asking us to come to their space and help them fight. They're offering to share their technology with us. And if we refuse, then they die. And eventually the Devourers will find us too." Kim walked to the window that looked out at Earth. The blue and white planet slowly turned below them. Billions of people lived down there, not knowing that somewhere in the dark space between galaxies, an enemy was coming for them. "How long do we have?" he asked. "The Devourers move slowly," Lee said. "But once they finish with the Villani, they'll start looking for new targets. Maybe 10 years, maybe 20. That's not enough time to build defenses. No, sir. But it might be enough time to stop them where they are now." Kim turned back to his officers. "What would we need to mount an expedition to Andromeda?" "It would take the largest fleet in human history," Park said, "and new technology we don't have yet. But it's possible. Maybe, if the entire Earth government agrees to help." Kim looked at the screen again. The alien message continued to scroll past. Words about death and destruction, but also words about hope. The Villani believed that humans could save them. They believed that the violent history of Earth had created warriors who could face the impossible. "Sir," Park said quietly, "the transmission is getting weaker. I think their communication equipment is being destroyed." New words appeared on the screen. These ones were different, more urgent. "They have found us. The Star Eaters are here. Our ships are broken. Our worlds burn. Deathworlders, if you can hear this message, please remember us. Fight them. Make them pay for what they have done." The screen went dark. The transmission had ended. Kim felt the weight of command on his shoulders. Somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, an entire species was dying. They had called out to humanity as their last hope, and now their voices were silent. "Get me a direct line to Earth Command," Kim said, "and call an emergency meeting of the Defense Council." "Yes, sir." "We're going to war." Park looked at him with surprise. "Sir? Those machines think they can eat their way across the universe. They think nothing can stop them." Kim turned to face his officers. "They've never met humans before." The command center became busy as officers started making calls and sending messages. Kim stood alone for a moment, looking at the dark screen where the alien message had been. The Villani were probably dead now, but their message lived on. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the Devourers were coming. They would learn. What happened when you threatened a species that had crawled up from a world that spent millions of years trying to kill them? Earth was about to show the galaxy what Deathworlders could do. 6 months had passed since the alien message went silent. Earth was no longer the same world it had been before. Every major nation had joined Operation Starforge. Factory ships around Jupiter worked day and night, building the largest war fleet. In human history, Commander Choi Min-ho floated inside the skeleton of what would become the Soul's Fury. The ship was huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built before. Through his helmet, he could see welding sparks flying as workers attached armor plates to the hull. "How thick are those plates?" asked Engineer Nam Ji-eun through the radio. She floated next to him, checking numbers on her tablet. 2 meters, of steel and titanium," Choi said, "with ceramic backing." "That seems like too much. It will make the ship slow. Better slow than dead. These Devourers cut through the Villani ships like paper. We need to be able to take hits and keep fighting." Nam looked at her designs again. Human warships did not look like the sleek vessels in old movies. They looked like flying fortresses, covered in weapons and armor. Every surface had guns or missile tubes. There was no smooth metal, no elegant curves, just hard angles and thick plates designed to stop enemy fire. "The main cannon is ready for testing," Nam said. "Want to see?" They flew toward the front of the ship. The main weapon was a railgun that ran through the center of the vessel. It could fire chunks of metal at incredible speeds, fast enough to punch through a moon. "Regular laser weapons don't work well against machine enemies," Nam explained. "But kinetic weapons, bullets and shells, they always work. You hit something hard enough, it breaks. How hard does this thing hit? Hard enough to crack a planet." Choi smiled inside his helmet. Humans had always been good at breaking things. Now they were applying that skill to saving the galaxy. Colonel Yoon Dae-young was training soldiers in the asteroid belt. His void. Marines practiced fighting in zero gravity, learning to use weapons that would work in space or on hostile alien worlds. "Remember," he shouted over the radio as his troops moved through a mock battlefield built inside a hollow asteroid. "These machines are smart. They learn from every fight. You cannot use the same trick twice." Sergeant Kang Soo-jin pulled herself along a metal beam, carrying a plasma rifle. The weapon was heavy and used a lot of power, but it could melt through almost any material. She aimed at a target and fired. The beam cut through the metal like butter. "Good shot," Yoon said. "But what if that target shot back? Then I would move and shoot again. What if there were 10 targets? Then I would call for help and use grenades. What if your grenades did not work?" Kang thought for a moment. "Then I would ram them with my armor and set off my power cell." Yoon nodded. This was the human way. If weapons failed, use your ship as a weapon. If your ship failed, use your body. Never give up. Never surrender. Always find a way to hurt the enemy, even if it cost you everything. Dr. Shin Hye-jin worked in a secret laboratory deep under the moon's surface. Her project was classified at the highest level. She was turning Earth's most dangerous life forms into weapons. "The beauty of biological warfare," she explained to her assistant, "is that machines do not expect it. They plan for lasers and missiles. They do not plan for viruses and bacteria." She held up a small container filled with what looked like ordinary water. "This contains a modified version of Earth's most aggressive bacteria. It eats metal and spreads very fast. One drop could destroy an entire devourer ship." "Is it safe for humans?" "We are immune. Humans carry antibodies for thousands of diseases. Our immune systems are stronger than any other known species. What kills machines will not hurt us." This was another advantage of coming from a death world. Earth had tried to kill humans with diseases for millions of years. Those who survived had immune systems that could fight almost anything. Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of the Soul's Fury as it prepared for its first test flight. Through the windows, he could see 200 other ships spread across space. Each one was different, but all were built for the same purpose: war. "All ships report ready," said Captain Park So-min from her position at the communications station. "Engine test in 3, 2, 1, announced Nam from engineering. The Soul's Fury slowly moved forward. The ship was massive, but its engines pushed it faster and faster until it was racing through space faster than any human vessel had ever moved before. "Weapons test," Kim ordered. The main railgun fired. A piece of metal shot out and hit an old asteroid 1,000 kilometers away. The asteroid exploded into dust. "Direct hit," reported the weapons officer. Kim felt proud. His species had gone from throwing rocks at animals to shooting pieces of metal across space at the speed of light, and they had done it all in just a few million years. "Sir," Park said, "we're getting reports from the outer colonies. Long-range sensors are detecting something moving between the galaxies." "The Devourers?" "We think so. They're still far away, but they're moving toward us." Kim looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed the estimated position of the enemy fleet. There were hundreds of them, maybe thousands. "How long until they reach us?" "If they keep moving at current speed, about 5 years. "And how long until our fleet is ready?" "All ships will be complete in 6 months. Training will take another year." Kim did the math in his head. They would have their fleet ready with time to spare. "But would it be enough, sir?" said Dr. Lee Hyun-woo as he entered the bridge. "I've been studying the data from the Villani transmission. I found something interesting." "What?" "The Devourers are not just random destroyers. They're building something. Each system they consume adds to a larger structure." Lee showed them images on the main screen. The red areas that marked destroyed systems were not scattered randomly. They formed a pattern like pieces of a giant machine. "What kind of machine?" Park asked. "I don't know, but it's big. Galaxy-sized big." Kim felt cold. The enemy was not just killing for the sake of killing. They had a plan, a purpose, and humanity was standing in their way. "Double the construction schedule," he ordered. "I want every ship ready in 4 months, not 6. "Sir, that might not be possible," Nam said. "Make it possible. Work around the clock. Use every resource we have." The officers went to work with new urgency. Around Jupiter, the construction pace increased. Ships that had been taking months to build were now being completed in weeks. Other species might have given up when faced with such impossible odds, but humans had never learned to give up. When faced with extinction, they built weapons. When faced with superior enemies, they found ways to fight dirty. When faced with impossible tasks, they worked until the impossible became possible. In the depths of space, the Devourers continued their advance. They had destroyed countless civilizations and consumed entire galaxies. They had never met a species that would willingly throw itself into battle against impossible odds. They were about to learn what happened when an unstoppable force met humanity. The war for the galaxy was about to begin. The human fleet moved through the empty space between galaxies like a pack of metal wolves hunting in the dark. 200 ships spread across millions of kilometers, all heading toward what had once been Villani space. Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of the Soul's Fury, watching the stars slowly change position as they traveled. "Day 412 of the crossing," announced Captain Park So-min. "All ships still reporting normal status. The journey was taking longer than anyone had hoped. The space between galaxies was vast beyond human understanding. Even at their fastest speed, it would take almost 2 years to reach their destination." Kim looked at the medical reports on his tablet. "How many cases of void madness this week?" 47, said medic Kang Soo-jin over the intercom. "But most are mild cases. The crew is handling the isolation better than expected. Void madness was something that only affected humans. Other species could travel between stars without problems, but humans seemed to need the presence of planets and suns to stay mentally healthy. Too much time in empty space made some people see things that were not there. But there was an unexpected side effect. Some of the people with mild void madness reported feeling when enemies were nearby, even when sensors detected nothing. The military doctors called it enhanced spatial awareness. The soldiers called it the creeps. "Sir," said Dr. Lee Hyun-woo from his science station. We're picking up debris ahead. What kind of debris? Metal fragments. Ship parts. They're not human design. Kim moved to the sensor display. Scattered across space in front of them were pieces of what had once been spacecraft. The metal was twisted and melted, as if it had been exposed to incredible heat. Could this be from the Volani? Possible. But the design is different. These ships were built by someone else. As the fleet moved closer, they found more debris. Entire ship hulls drifted in the darkness, their crews long dead. The vessels were beautiful, made of materials that shined like silver and gold. But now they were broken and empty. "We're receiving a transmission," Park announced. "It's weak, but it's definitely artificial." Put it on the main screen. The message that appeared was in a language no human had seen before, but the computer was already working to translate it. Slowly, words in English began to appear. "To any who find this message, we are the last of the Zephyrians. Our homeworlds were consumed by the Devourers 3 cycles ago. We tried to run, but there is nowhere to hide from the Star Eaters." Kim felt a chill. Another dead civilization. Another species that had failed to stop the machines. "The message continues," Park said. "We have heard rumors of the Deathworlders, the warriors from the angry planet. If you are the ones from Earth, please know that you are our last hope. We could not fight them. Our weapons were useless. Our ships too slow. But you are different. You know how to fight. You know how to die for others." The message faded, but not before giving coordinates to a location deeper in space. "Sir," said Commander Choi Min-ho from his ship, "I recommend we investigate those coordinates. There might be survivors." Kim agreed. The fleet changed course and headed toward the location from the message. What they found there surprised everyone. Hidden in the shadow of a dead star was a small group of alien ships. They were damaged but still functioning. As the human fleet approached, one of the alien vessels sent a message. "Please identify yourselves. Are you the Deathworlders? This is Admiral Kim Tae-ho of the Earth Defense Force. We received your message." The alien ships moved closer. Kim got his first look at a Zephyrian vessel up close. It was incredibly beautiful, made of smooth curves and flowing lines. It looked more like a work of art than a warship. A face appeared on the screen. The alien looked almost human, but taller and more delicate. Its skin was pale blue, and its eyes were large and silver. "I am Veltar, leader of the last Zephyrian survivors. We are honored to meet the legendary warriors of Earth. How many of you are left? Only a few thousand, spread across 12 ships. We are all that remains of a civilization of billions." Kim felt anger growing inside him. The Devourers had destroyed an entire species just to feed their machines. They would pay for what they had done. "We're heading to what used to be Volani space," Kim said. "Will you come with us?" "Yes. But I must warn you, the Devourers are not what you expect. They learn from every battle. They adapt to every weapon. 17 species have tried to fight them. All have failed. Major Oh Sang-wook was leading a patrol in his fighter when the sensors detected movement. Something was coming toward the fleet, moving fast. "Contact," he reported. "Multiple bogies heading our way." Kim looked at the tactical display. Red dots were approaching from several directions. They moved in perfect formation like a computer. "Program. All ships. Battle stations," Kim ordered. The Devourer scouts were smaller than human ships, but they moved with deadly precision. They were black metal spheres covered in weapons and sensors. Weapons free, Kim announced. Show them what humans can do. The battle began. Human ships opened fire with everything they had. Railguns fired chunks of metal at incredible speeds. Missile tubes launched nuclear warheads. Laser batteries cut through space. The Devourer ships returned fire. Their weapons were beams of pure energy that could cut through armor like paper. Several human ships took damage, but they kept fighting. Major O flew his fighter straight at a Devourer scout. His ship was tiny compared to the enemy, but it was fast and hard to hit. He fired his plasma cannon and watched the energy bolt hit the enemy ship. The Devourer scout exploded in a ball of fire. First kill confirmed, O reported. The battle continued for 20 minutes. When it was over, 15 Devourer scouts had been destroyed. The humans had lost 3 fighters and 2 corvettes. Damage report, Kim ordered. Hull breaches on 6 ships, but all are manageable, reported Chief Engineer Nam. No critical damage. Veltar's ship moved closer to the Soul's Fury. The alien leader appeared on the screen again, but now he looked different. There was something like fear in his silver eyes. Admiral Kim, I must speak with you privately. A few minutes later, Veltar was standing in Kim's ready room. The alien was even taller than he had appeared on screen, almost 3 meters high. His movements were graceful, but nervous. What troubles you? Kim asked. Your tactics, the way your ships fight. It is unlike anything we have ever seen. What do you mean? You sent your fighters directly at enemy ships 10 times their size. You rammed a corvette into a scout rather than let it escape. Your soldiers seem to have no fear of death. Kim nodded. Fear gets you killed. Better to attack first and worry about survival later. But this is madness. How can you deliberately sacrifice your people? Because sometimes sacrifice is the only way to protect what matters. Every human who dies fighting the Devourers is saving billions of others. Veltar sat down heavily. This is why the other species failed. We could not accept such losses. We tried to fight while protecting every life, and so we lost everything. War is ugly, Kim said, but sometimes it's necessary. I am beginning to understand why you are called Deathworlders. You do not just come from a dangerous planet. You have become dangerous yourselves. Kim looked out the window at the stars ahead. Somewhere in that darkness, the Devourers were waiting. They had destroyed countless civilizations by being smarter and stronger than everyone they faced. But they had never faced a species that had learned to fight dirty, to sacrifice everything for victory, to turn their own deaths into weapons. The Devourers were about to learn what happened when you picked a fight with humans, and Kim intended to make sure it was a lesson they would never forget. The human fleet arrived at the edge of what had once been Vellani space, and found nothing but darkness. Where stars should have been, there was only black emptiness that seemed to swallow all light that touched it. Sensor readings? Admiral Kim asked, staring at the impossible sight before them. Nothing, sir, replied Captain Park So-min. It's like space itself has been deleted. Dr. Lee Hyun-woo studied his instruments with growing alarm. This isn't natural. The dark zone is perfectly spherical, about 12 light-years across. Whatever did this had complete control over matter and energy. Commander Choi Min-ho's voice came through the communication system from his ship. Sir, recommend we send in a probe before risking the fleet. Negative, Kim replied. If there are survivors in there, they don't have time for us to be careful. All ships, prepare for entry into the dark zone. Veltar's face appeared on the screen. The alien leader looked terrified. Admiral, This could be a trap. The Devourers might be waiting inside. Then we'll spring it. Better to fight them in there than let them come out here. Kim gave the order, and the human fleet moved forward into the darkness. As soon as the first ships crossed the boundary, everything changed. The stars disappeared. Space itself seemed thick and heavy, like swimming through oil. "Emergency lighting only," Kim ordered. "Save power." The Soul's fury moved deeper into the dark zone, its hull lights cutting through the blackness like knives. Other ships followed, spread out in battle formation. "Sir," reported the sensor officer, "I'm picking up massive structures ahead. They're huge." As the fleet moved closer, their lights revealed the true horror of what the Devourers had done. The Volani star system had been transformed into a vast machine. Planets had been torn apart and rebuilt into computing centers. The star itself had been enclosed in a shell of metal that harvested its energy. "My God," whispered Dr. Lee. They turned an entire solar system into a computer. Mechanical structures stretched across space, connected by cables thicker than Earth's. Largest cities, everything pulsed with alien energy, creating patterns of light that hurt to look at. "Movement detected," announced Major O from his fighter squadron. "Multiple contacts, heading our way." The Devourer fleet emerged from behind the mechanical structures. These were not the small scouts they had fought before. These ships were massive, the size of human battleships, and there were hundreds of them. "All ships, battle stations," Kim ordered. "Today we find out if humans can fight the impossible." The battle began with a barrage of energy beams from the Devourer ships. The weapons were more powerful than anything the humans had faced before. Several ships took critical damage in the first few seconds. "Return fire!" Kim shouted. Human railguns opened up, sending streams of metal projectiles at the enemy ships. The Devourer vessels had shields that deflected most energy weapons, but kinetic rounds punched through like they were paper. Commander Choi led a charge of heavy cruisers directly at the enemy line. "All ships, ramming speed! If we're going to die, let's take them with us." The Zephyrians watched in amazement as human ships deliberately crashed into Devourer vessels, both ships exploding in massive fireballs. It was a tactic no sane species would ever use. "They're destroying themselves," Veltar said in shock. "No," replied Admiral Kim as he watched another human ship ram an enemy dreadnought. "They're buying us time." Lieutenant Colonel Bae Yoon Young led a boarding party onto a damaged De vous reconstruct. Her Void Marines fought through corridors filled with mechanical horrors, using plasma rifles and explosives to clear the way. "This place gives me the creeps," said Sergeant Kang as she melted through a bulkhead with her plasma cutter. "Stay focused," Bae replied. "Intel says there might be prisoners somewhere in this thing. They found them 3 levels down. A group of aliens huddled in what had once been a cargo bay. They were tall and thin, with golden skin and large eyes. Velthari, the last survivors of the Volani." "Are you the Deathworlders?" asked one of the aliens, a female named Talmarin. "Earth Defense Force," Bae confirmed. "We're here to get you." "Out! You should not have come. The Devourers cannot be defeated. They learn too quickly, adapt too fast." "Maybe," Bae said as she helped the aliens to their feet. "But we're too stupid to know when we're beaten." Back in space, the battle was going badly for the humans. The Devourers were adapting to their tactics, finding ways to counter every weapon and strategy. For every enemy ship destroyed, the humans lost 2. "Sir," reported Technical Sergeant Im Da-Sam from the engineering deck, "I have an idea. It's crazy, but it might work." "All our ideas are crazy," Kim replied. "What do you have?" The Devourers are machines. They think like computers, but humans don't think logically. What if we could use that against them? How? I've been working on a virus. Not a computer virus, but something stranger. Philosophical paradoxes and impossible equations that would confuse any logical mind. Kim understood immediately. Upload it to our weapon systems. Let's give these machines something to think about. The virus spread through the human fleets, computers, and was transmitted with every weapon fired. Energy beams carried impossible mathematical concepts. Railgun rounds were encoded with logical paradoxes that had no solution. The effect on the Devourer ships was immediate. They began moving erratically, their perfect formations breaking apart. Some ships simply stopped dead in space. They're artificial. Minds caught in endless loops trying to solve unsolvable problems. "It's working!" shouted Park. "Enemy ships are shutting down across the board!" But the victory was short-lived. Deep in the heart of the mechanical construct, something new was stirring. The darkness itself began to move, and space started to tear apart like fabric. "What is that?" demanded Veltar as reality warped around them. Dr. Lee studied his readings with growing horror. "It's a gateway. They're opening a portal to somewhere else." Through the tear in space, things began to emerge. They were not ships or machines, but beings of pure energy and malevolent intelligence. Entities from outside the universe, drawn by the Devourer's signal. "The Devourers were just scouts," Lee whispered. "This is what they were calling." The extra-dimensional beings reached out with tendrils of dark energy, trying to convert everything they touched into computational substrate. Where they passed, stars went out and planets crumbled to dust. "All ships, fall back to minimum safe distance," Kim ordered. But he knew there was no safe distance from something that could rewrite the laws of physics. Commander Choi's voice came, over the radio, calm despite the chaos around them. "Admiral, I have a plan, but you're not going to like it. Tell me. The Soul's Fury is loaded with antimatter torpedoes. If I can get close enough to that gateway, I might be able to collapse." Kim felt his heart sink. It was a suicide mission. "Choi, no. There has to be another way." "Sir, with respect, there isn't. Someone has to close that portal before those things get fully through, and humans are good at making sacrifices." Kim wanted to refuse, to find another solution. But he knew Choi was right. Sometimes the only way to win was to be willing to lose everything. "Understood, Commander." Godspeed. The Soul's Fury turned toward the gateway, its engines at full power. Enemy fire lit up space around the ship, but nothing could stop its final charge. Choi flew straight into the portal, taking his ship and crew into the space between realities. The explosion that followed lit up the entire dark zone like a new star being born. The gateway collapsed, cutting off the extra-dimensional entities and trapping them between worlds. When the light faded, the Devourer fleet was in ruins. Their perfect coordination was broken, their ships drifting powerless in space. Without the guidance of their masters from beyond, they were just empty machines. The battle was over. Humanity had won, but the price had been terrible. Half the fleet was gone, and thousands of brave souls would never see Earth again. But they had done something no other species had managed. They had stopped the Devourers and saved the galaxy from a fate worse than death. Admiral Kim stood alone, on his bridge, looking out at the wreckage of the greatest battle in galactic history. Somewhere in that debris field was what remained of the Soul's Fury and its heroic crew. The galaxy was safe, but Kim knew that other threats were out there in the darkness. And when they came, humanity would be ready, After all, they were Deathworlders. Fighting the impossible was what they did best. The space around the collapsed gateway still glowed with strange energy. Admiral Kim stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship, watching as rescue ships searched through the wreckage for survivors. The battle was over, but the cost had been devastating. "Final casualty report," said Captain Park So-min, her voice quiet with grief. 120 ships lost, 40,000 personnel dead or missing. Kim felt each number like a weight on his shoulders. "How many enemy vessels destroyed?" "All of them, sir. The Devourer fleet has been completely eliminated." Lieutenant Colonel Bay led her Marines through the ruins of the Devourer construct, searching for more survivors. They found thousands of Velthari prisoners who had been kept alive as organic computers. The aliens were weak and scared, but they were free. "The Star Eaters made us solve problems for them," explained Talmarin as medics treated her injuries. "Our minds worked differently than their machines. They needed our creativity." Dr. Shin. Hyjin studied samples of Devourer technology in her temporary laboratory. "Their weakness was exactly what we thought," she told Kim over the communication link. "They were purely logical. They couldn't handle chaos, paradox, or illogical thinking." "And the biological weapons?" "Even more effective than hoped." Earther. Viruses that had evolved to fight human immune systems were deadly to the extra-dimensional entities. Millions of years of disease and plague on our planet created the perfect weapons against beings from outside our reality. Kim found irony in that. The same diseases that had killed countless humans throughout history had helped save the galaxy. Veltar approached Kim on the observation deck of the command ship. The Zephyrian leader looked different now, older somehow, marked by what he had witnessed. "Admiral, my people owe you a debt that can never be repaid," Veltar said. "You saved not just our survivors, but all life in the galaxy. We did what had to be done. No, you did something more. You showed us that peaceful species can learn to fight when necessary. My people have decided to rebuild, but this time we will not be defenseless." Kim nodded. That was good. The galaxy needed defenders, and humans couldn't be everywhere at once. "There's something else," Veltar continued. "We've made contact with other survivor groups. The Altari, the Vexhai, the Mindorians. Dozens of species that were scattered by the Devourers. They all want to meet the Deathworlders who saved them." Over the following weeks, ships arrived from across the galaxy. Representatives of species that humans had never heard of came to see the warriors who had defeated the impossible enemy. The meetings were held in the ruins of the Velthari capital, ship, which had been converted into a temporary space station. Kim found himself standing before delegates from 40 different worlds, all of them grateful and slightly afraid. "The Terran Federation fought with a ferocity we had never seen," announced Ambassador Kelnara of the Mindorian Republic. "They used tactics that our military computers labeled as suicidal, yet somehow they worked. Because we don't fight to preserve ourselves," Kim replied. "We fight to preserve what we love, and will sacrifice anything to protect it," the alien delegates whispered among themselves. For species that had evolved on peaceful worlds, the human approach to warfare was both inspiring and terrifying. "We propose the formation of a new alliance," said Elder Voxtar of the Altari Collective. "A galactic defense council with Earth as its military headquarters. We will provide technology and resources. You will provide expertise in warfare." Kim considered this carefully. Humanity had proven itself as warriors, but could they handle the responsibility of protecting an entire galaxy? "We accept," he said finally. "But on one condition. We all learn from each other. Humans will teach you to fight, but you must teach us to build and heal. The agreement was signed using a mixture of alien technologies and human engineering. The document itself was a symbol of cooperation between species that had learned to work together despite their differences. Dr. Lee Hyun-woo was appointed as head of the new Xenobiology Research Division. His job was to study the remains of the Devourers and the extra-dimensional entities to make sure such threats could be detected and stopped in the future. "We've learned something important," he told Kim in his final report. "The universe is much more dangerous than we thought. The Devourers were just one threat among many. There are things out there in the darkness between realities that want to turn all of existence into computational substrate. But we stopped them. This time. Next time we need to be ready." Captain Park So-min was promoted to admiral and given command of the new Galactic Early Warning Network. Her ships would patrol the edges of known space, watching for new threats and providing advance warning to the Allied worlds. Colonel Yoon established training academies on 12 different worlds, teaching alien species how to fight like humans. The lessons were hard, and many alien soldiers struggled with human tactics that seemed to ignore basic survival instincts. "The key," Yoon explained to a class of mixed-species recruits, "is not to fight smarter, it's to fight harder. When your enemy expects you to retreat, you advance. When they expect you to surrender, you explode." Engineer Nam was put in charge of designing the new generation of Allied warships. The vessels combined human durability with alien technology, creating ships that were both elegant and deadly. "Human ships are built like hammers," she told her design team. "Alien ships are built like scalpels. We're going to build ships that are both." 5 years after the battle, Admiral Kim stood in his office on the new Galactic Defense Command station. Through his window, he could see ships from dozens of worlds working together, training for threats that might never come. A young officer approached with a message pad. "Sir, we're receiving a distress signal from the Epsilon sector. Unknown energy signatures, possible hostile contact." Kim took the pad and read the report. Somewhere in the darkness of space, another threat was stirring. Another species was crying out for help. "Prep the rapid response fleet," he ordered. "Full battle deployment." "Sir, are you sure? It could be a false alarm." Kim looked out at the stars and thought about Commander Choi and all the other humans who had died to protect people they had never met. Their sacrifice had bought the galaxy time to prepare, to unite, to become something stronger. "It doesn't matter if it's real or not," he said. "When someone calls for help, we answer." That's what Deathworlders do. The fleet launched within an hour. 200 ships carrying the best that human and alien technology could provide. At their head flew the new flagship, named Soul's Fury, 2 in honor of the ship and crew that had saved the galaxy. As they jumped into hyperspace, heading toward whatever new threat awaited them, Kim felt a familiar sensation. It was the feeling he had learned to recognize during humanity's long climb from the caves to the stars. It was the feeling of going to war for something worth dying for. Behind them, the peaceful worlds of the galaxy continued their work of building and growing and creating beauty. They could do so because somewhere in the darkness, the children of a death world stood watch. The galaxy was no longer defenseless. It had found its guardians among a species that had learned to fight not because they were evil, but because they were willing to sacrifice everything to protect what they loved. And in the vast darkness of space, where new threats waited and unknown dangers lurked, that willingness to sacrifice made all the difference. The Deathworlders had found their purpose among the stars. They were no longer just survivors of a hostile world. They were the protectors of all life, the guardians of hope, the warriors who would stand against the darkness no matter the cost. And when the next SOS signal came from some distant corner of the galaxy, they would be ready to answer. After all, it was what they did best.